Hello, everyone, and welcome back to another edition of Sustainability This Month, your go-to source for the latest updates in the world of sustainability. I am Mala Panjwani, and I'm here all again excited to take you to today's program. Now, this special program, Sustainability This Month, is brought to you by the Forum for Sustainable Enterprises. And today we are shining a spotlight on the COP29 live, which is being hosted in Baku, Azerbaijan this year from 11 to 22nd November. Now, the Conference of Parties is an annual global summit organized by the UNFCCC, has been the focal point of global climate discussions where over 100 world leaders and countless experts from around the world come together to address the most pressing climate issues of our time. Today's session will dwell into the key highlights and outcomes from the first week of COP29, since it has completed its first week, and will also provide a glimpse of what lies ahead. We are honored today to have two distinguished experts with us, joining us live from Baku, who will share exclusive insights and on-the-ground coverage of this important event. Let me introduce our esteemed panelists for today. So we have Dr. Alexandra Soizer, who is a distinguished leader in climate change mitigation, sustainable development, and climate finance, with over 20 years of global experience. Currently, she is serving as the director of the Climate Action Center of Excellence, also known as CACE, in Doha, Qatar. Now, she spearheads innovative public-private partnerships aligned with Article 6 of the Paris Agreement to drive decarbonization, advance sustainable economic growth, and achieve the SDGs. With a career spanning key roles at the UNDP and other international organizations, she has championed climate finance mechanisms, low carbon strategies, NDC mitigation initiatives, and rural electrification while fostering stakeholder engagement. Also holding advanced degrees in environmental science and certification in climate finance, Dr. Soizer combines technical expertise with visionary leadership, significantly shaping global efforts in sustainability in climate finance. Next, we have with us our Ram Sir, Dr. P. Ram Babu, who is a prominent thought leader in sustainability and climate change with over 35 years of experience in governance, sustainability, climate change issues. Currently, he serves as the Chief Sustainability Officer at Grinko Group and an advisor to the World Bank, a co-chair to the FICCI. He's the founder of GC Advisory and also the chairman of FSC. Dr. Ram Babu has led over 200 sustainability initiatives across government bodies, international organizations, and corporations. His work has significantly influenced environmental governance and climate finance policies in India and globally. A strong advocate for net zero and circular economy, Ram Sir works closely with leadership teams across India and Asia to drive transformative sustainability initiatives. Thank you, Ram Sir and Dr. Soizer, for joining us today. Well, a brief about the COP this year. Now, COP29 is being held at the Baku Stadium in Azerbaijan, which reflects Azerbaijan's commitment to hosting transparent, inclusive, and impactful discussions. This year's agenda is anchored on enhancing ambition and enabling action through a series of thematic days. As you can see on the screen, for the first week, it has all been around welcoming all the world leaders to the summit, and the focus has been on energy, peace, science, technology, finance, investment. The other days which will follow, will focus on food, agriculture, water, and tourism, urbanization, transport, people, gender, biodiversity, these will be the focus themes in the coming days ahead in COP. Now, a quick snapshot of what has happened in the past 1 week in COP29. So COP29 kicked off with remarkable momentum, focusing on advancing crucial climate frameworks and securing vital financial commitments. Throughout the week, there has been significant progress in carbon markets, climate finance, and updating the nationally determined contributions, the NDCs, for 2035. A major highlight in this week has been the negotiations around the carbon market frameworks under the Article 6, which is buzzing a lot nowadays, which are central to global efforts to meet climate goals. Now, the conference opened with a powerful address from COP29 President Echi Mukta Babawe, who emphasized the importance of global cooperation in tackling the climate crisis. The UN Secretary General Antonio Guterres also highlighted therein during the opening ceremony the urgency of preventing climate disasters, calling on nations to accelerate their actions in the face of rising climate impacts. A significant topic during the week of discussion has been the financial needs for climate action. The new collective quantified goals, NCQGS, revealed that $6.5 trillion will be annually needed by 2030, with a strong focus on providing financial support to vulnerable communities will be needed. Now, this is a key step in ensuring that developing countries can mitigate and adapt to climate impacts. Also, during the week, pledges towards climate finance have been substantial, with multilateral development banks committing to around $120 billion annually for climate finance by 2030. And there has been several nations who have been stepping up their contributions to the loss and damage fund. Now, also, highlights have been on countries like the UK, UAE, and Brazil, who have updated their NDCs, also setting ambitious emission reduction targets for the 2035 year, signaling their commitment to achieving global climate goals. Additionally, Article 6 carbon markets have seen substantial progress during the week, with the establishment of carbon credit quality standards and the new bilateral trading agreements, including these between Japan and Indonesia, and potential agreements with South Korea and Italy. So, COP29 has also witnessed major financial pledges, with Azerbaijan committing around $1.2 billion towards green projects, while Sweden, who has pledged around $19 million while to the loss and damage funds. Similarly, there have been many other countries who have been doing their contributions towards the loss and damage fund. So overall, week one of COP29 has set a strong foundation for the rest of the conference, with substantial financial announcements, key policy advancements, and continued drive towards ambitious climate action. Now, the discussions and agreements made in these initial days have set the tone for the remainder of the conference, with further breakthroughs expected in the coming days. Now, with these highlights in mind, I would like to invite our experts, Ram sir and Dr. Caesar, to share their valuable insights on the outcomes of the first week of COP. What are the major developments, according to them, that has occurred that will transform the global climate action, as well as we would also love to know from them what do they expect in the coming days and beyond. So, over to Dr. Ram Babu and Dr. Caesar for their insights.
Thank you, Mala. I will take over first.
Yeah, please.
I would like to see this as a conversation between you and me. Okay, I would ask you a few questions, and
Yes.
okay,
Yeah.
you are the expert. Okay, I would like to keep myself limited to querying you. No, as we are all seeing, Mala, we are actually in the midst of COP. Okay, it's almost like entry to the blue zone where we are.
Yeah.
Okay, we are in a pavilion of I think the world's small scale industries or something. Yeah, you can see that. Okay, this is the pavilion which is also reserved for ASSOCHAM, right? And that is where we are there. And soon after this pavilion, as we go along, you have all the delegates pavilion, delegate offices, and many of the meeting rooms, and also side event rooms, etc., etc. It is in the Baku Stadium. You can hear the noise all around, and there are so many visitors. So sorry for the disturbance, but we also wanted you to feel how the COP is going on, the noise around the COP.
Right,
So,
sir.
yes, sir. You have been in the COP for already one full week, right? And already Mala has briefed about. We too are most interested in Article 6. I think we'll keep the discussion around Article 6 and the second phase.
Yes.
And the first phase we will first review. This COP is known for, it's called finance COP, right?
Exactly, yeah.
So what are those movements that have occurred? As Mala said, contributions to loss and damage, and contribution to climate finance, multilateral development banks contributing up to above 100 billion, etc., etc. So, what do you see these developments? Now, how do you see these developments happening
Yeah.
in climate finance?
Okay,
Raising
so
finance.
maybe I should just first say I'm surprised how many participants we see here in the COP. There are more than 40,000 people attending. This is a surprise given the challenges everybody had to get badges, but it is very well attended, and the mood, I think, across participants is surprisingly good after the first week of especially the substance discussions, and now the papers are. Many papers are clean and are transferred to the CMA to make final decisions. On the finance side, of course, the big discussion is on the new collective quantified goal. This is the big, supposed to be the big outcome of COP29. I see here still challenges because the views between the developed and developing world are still big. The expectation from developed countries is for developing countries that are in a position to do so contribute to the new goal, while developing countries, especially with the leadership of China, expect the developed world to take responsibility and contribute to the climate crisis that was posed by developed countries. And I have not followed the latest developments here because my focus is on Article 6, Article 6.4 and 6.8 as well. But my understanding from the latest email exchanges that I received is that this discussion is still ongoing and there is no clarity on how exactly it will be put forward for approval to the ministers. So I hope there can be an agreement, because without an agreement on finance, this COP will probably, apart from all the positive noise and success on carbon markets, will probably be overall a failure. Because finance has to move forward. This is really a challenge that has been seen in the past, and many countries are now finally to receive some climate finance from developed countries. There is still a huge gap in climate finance across the world. Really. I think this gap is massive.
Besides the Article 6, on the quantified goals, what is the progress?
No, I mean, this is on the quantified goals. So I don't see significant progress. I think there is still the challenge between the views of developed and developing countries. That, developed countries have to step up and contribute stronger. Of course, everybody in the background has the concern about the potential exit of the US after the election of Donald Trump. And also Argentina pulled back their delegation and seems to re-evaluate their position. So this is, of course, also a concern for many, but at least on the Article 6 front, there is progress. And as you don't know the name of the lady, Mala, as Mala already said, there was a very strategic approach advisory body, which elected basically the key methodologies on goals and development and assessment of methodologies. So two key standards for Article 6.4 before the COP happened. So this was enacted, and the CMA on the very first day of the COP approved these standards. And in addition to that, the supervisory body of Article 6.4 also approved the sustainable development, which I think is also important because environmental integrity is a huge topic across global organizations. There's an expectation that the new generation of carbon markets contributes more to sustainable development and community empowerment when it comes to forestry projects. So this expectation is fulfilled. 6.4 is operational. Finally, after so many COPs negotiating and not reaching any major milestone. And also the text on 6.2 is it's a clean text. It's not approved, obviously. It was put forward to the CMA. And the expectation is that it will be approved. There are a few small discussions around the registry, interoperability and connectivity between the international registry and so the Article 6.4 and 6.2 platform, or international registry. So this discussion is not 100% clear yet. Even what the final conclusion on the interoperability and connectivity will be. Some countries are very positive and want to have this connectivity. A few countries, I think, with the US leading the concerns, against this leakage. But it shouldn't be any deal breaker, and even if this component of Article 6.2 is not approved in this COP, it doesn't mean that Article 6.2 and 6.4 cannot go ahead. There's no room to stop or wait for the next steps. So project developers, investors, they should all be ready to engage in carbon markets.
Is it, Alexandra, that all that climate finance that we are talking about, we all now believe it has to come from carbon markets or Article 6 itself. Outside Article 6, whatever the promises of 100 billion, I think it's still not very clear.
So there is little appetite at the moment to put forward any numbers. So there is no commitment from any country yet on how much can be really contributed to this new collective quantified goal. Yeah. Of course, the US is very careful to make a commitment. The EU, there's also a shift to right-wing governments across the EU. So probably there's also a bit of reluctance from the EU side to put too much forward. And there is the expectation for developing countries that are in a position to contribute to it as well. And of course, also very much private sector. There's a huge expectation for private sector to engage and contribute. Yeah.
And what about the loss and damages fund?
I have not.
No, you have not been. You have not been. So then, I think we need to come down to our favorite topic. That is the Article 6 carbon markets. Okay? So, to the audience who have been watching us, the first day approval by CMA of the Article 6.4. What is it exactly? Can you explain?
These are two standards that define the methodologies and how the removal methodologies can be used for for carbon markets. Yeah. So this, I think, these two standards were the key. How to say the key barriers for projects or for Article 6.2 for Article 6.4 to become operational. In Article 6.2, the challenges were around the definition of what a cooperative approach actually is. Is it a sovereign to sovereign engagement, or can it also be a sovereign to private sector, basically? Yeah? And POSEA in a way is private sector, right? So POSEA has been on the table for a long time, but now it is a very clear statement in the latest text, not yet approved text, but clean text, that a cooperative approach can be between one country issuing an authorization and a private entity engaging with one authorizing government. Then there is also guidance on the content of the initial report, which is relevant for both standards for 6.2 and for both mechanisms 6.2 and 6.4, because an initial report has to be submitted for all projects that are authorized. So this is incredibly important to understand what exactly has to be reported to UNFCCC. Then the timing, the content, and the format of authorizations has also been is also in the clean text, and this is also has been also a challenge for many project developers and governments, because it was not 100% clear what exactly should be put into a letter of authorization, which resulted in LOAs being issued by governments which were not comprehensive enough and probably not legally binding. Yeah? So, for example, for us, we are organizing also auctions. We could not accept such LOAs because they, for example, did not even authorize the entity owning the credits. It's impossible to accept an LOA without knowing who actually owns the credits. So these challenges were in past LOAs, and but this should be clear now. And then what else is clear is in the text? So typically also the identification, notification, and correction of inconsistencies, and the process for that has also been agreed, because this is an automated inconsistency check enacted by the Secretariat and through a team of external reviewers, and how this has to be done and what the processes are. This is now also clearly described in the guidance. So I think overall we have a lot of details with which we can work.
So what you are now saying is that under Article 6.2, with this clarity that is now there, an authorizing government can authorize for a private entity in another government to meet its not only NDC, because a private entity may not have NDC. So a government of India now can authorize for transfer of credits to a private entity. Either it could be Corsia or it could be Shell wanting to meet its SBTI requirements and whatever it is. So that's a wonderful advance actually.
This is all under other international mitigation purposes. So there are two use purposes. One is for NDC and the other is for other international mitigation purposes. And this includes CORSIA and everything else.
But a private entity like Shell wanting to meet its own,
can buy correspondingly adjusted.
But can it be interpreted as a other international mitigation purposes? Yes, it can. It can.
Yeah, because it also clearly says it can be between two governments. The authorization can be done between two governments or by only one government. In the case of international other mitigation purposes, not when it comes to NDC use, of course. In the case of NDC use, it has to be between two authorizing governments. So there is potentially huge demand now for these credits on the both mechanisms. But the question is still who is willing to pay the prices that we will see from correspondingly adjusted credits, because governments who authorize credits, they also want to be compensated for the corresponding adjustment they apply in their inventory, in their reporting to UNFCCC. They have to this emission reductions, this ITMOS, this internationally transferred mitigation outcomes, they cannot be accounted against the countries, the hosting countries, project hosting countries, NDC. This can only be accounted for whoever is purchasing these credits. So it means the country is giving away an asset that they have to compensate somehow. And they have to be paid for this compensation, for this corresponding adjustment they are doing in their reporting. And on the top of it, of course, there will be administrative fees for all the reporting that the government has to do towards UNFCCC. This is significant. Yeah? These are 3 types of reports that governments have to submit to UNFCCC on an annual basis, and this cannot be done for free. So somebody will have to pay for it. And my biggest question actually to UNFCCC is how this will work in the case of Article 6.4, because 6.4 is now structured around the administrative fees paid to UNFCCC. UNFCCC has already defined what exactly has to be paid for certain steps. And on the top of it, there is a 2% deduction for the contribution to overall mitigation, plus a 5% for adaptation. So in total, a lot of costs already, which will be reflected in the price. And if there is now also somehow the government that is doing the reporting has to be compensated for the time, so there will have to be additional payments made, and overall, it's probably around 20% deduction when you count for all the costs. So this 20% have to come on the top of the price. Yeah? So it will be a costly credit. And a company that is using the credits just for their own offsetting purposes will probably not pay these costly credits. They will continue to buy from the voluntary carbon market, because there you can get credits at the moment for less than, for $2, for even less than $2. So why would they pay $20, $30 for a ton if it is just for their own offsetting purposes? So the demand has to come from a compliance market, and at the moment the only compliance market is CORSIA, which is still not fully operational, and even there the costs are relatively, the costs for a credit are relatively low. So for me the question is, who is willing to pay the cost that most countries expect from this mechanism?
You see this, the voluntary market, which is able to supply the credits at the $2, etc., without any kind of corresponding adjustments, without not being very credible. I think somehow or other, okay, we all need to advocate that they should stop, and the only credible for any mitigation purpose is only the correspondingly adjusted credits, whether they are recourse or otherwise, but correspondingly, at least not double counted credits. I think that should be the approach all over.
I think this should be really the approach, and this is why it is concerning to see all these additional integrity standards being developed for the voluntary carbon market, why we have a very rigorous standard under Article 6.4. And 2, there is already a standard that was developed by the parties over the last 6-7 years. There's a lot of effort, and this standard should be the benchmark. Yeah? Why do we need other standards? But and this is probably a discussion for another time. But I think there shouldn't be 2 parallel markets. There shouldn't be a voluntary market and an Article 6 market. If Article 6 is too expensive, then probably some adjustments have to be, and this is really very much personal thoughts and thinking by talking, but maybe in order for example, a CORSIA market to function in the future and not put too much costs on airlines or individuals purchasing tickets from airlines, maybe the corresponding adjustment approach and how the whole Article 6 market with the NDC linkage is currently structured has to be reassessed. But the solution is certainly not to have 2 parallel markets, a voluntary market and an Article 6 market.
But more critical, Alexandra, is that CORSIA, if it thinks their airlines cannot afford to get to decarbonization or net zero, they should say that. But they cannot use credits that are not correspondingly adjusted.
At the moment, this is also not now. ICAO is very clear here. They only allow correspondingly adjusted credits to avoid double counting.
If something is not a credible emission reduction, then using that, and what are you telling the whole world that I am doing some emission reduction? So first thing is that something that is not correspondingly adjusted or something that is being double counted is not a credit at all. It is not an offset at all. You may still like to finance that particular project. You may still like to assist that project, but you are not an offset.
And therefore, there is a new category now in Article 6.4, which is the mitigation contribution
Absolutely.
unit. This is a unit that supports a mitigation project in
Absolutely.
a
It's
developing
a
country,
mitigation
but,
contribution unit.
but it is not
Yeah.
an offsetting
Yeah.
unit.
Yeah. It's a way to finance a project or help a project that is giving certain
Yes.
contributions. You are not actually buying emission reductions.
Exactly. You are this is climate finance. This
Yeah.
is climate finance through
Absolutely.
performance-based payments. Yeah.
So we seem to be agreeing that I think as we go forward, the ITMOs become the standard for emission reduction units, right?
This is
For
the
offsetting units.
Paris-aligned carbon market. This is how the carbon market evolved from the Kyoto mechanisms, from the CDM, from GI to Article 6. It is a new market. There shouldn't be anything else. And voluntary markets are Kyoto markets. They are
Absolutely.
historical markets that shouldn't even be considered then.
Yeah. And also these markets came up when no international agreement was operational and there was a lull. So they did provide certain positive role. They did play a positive role for creating some reason for climate action. Right? Whoever wanted to do climate action, they did
Yes.
provide a role. But now that the Paris Climate Agreement is back and a number of things that are supporting are back, I think the voluntary markets have a very limited role. They are actually mitigation contribution
Yes.
units.
Exactly.
Okay, they are not offsets.
Yeah. And in the past, under the Kyoto mechanism, there were Annex 1 countries and non-Annex 1 countries. There were countries with commitments and countries without commitments. Now, under the Paris Agreement, all countries agreed to pledge to the Paris Agreement, even if small, unconditionally small, but each and every country pledged to contribute to the goal of the Paris Agreement. So this is a global commitment.
Absolutely.
And countries, of course, distinguish their unconditional commitment to the Paris Agreement, the commitment they can do with their own resources, and additional commitments that require external support. But the way the NDC are currently phrased make the carbon market also challenging.
Yep.
Because the unconditional and conditional target is the target that the country puts forward. So including carbon markets in the conditional section of the NDC does not mean that this can be easily transferred out of the country, these volumes of emission reductions. They should still contribute to the host country's target. It doesn't matter if it is conditional or unconditional. For UNFCCC, for reporting purposes, there's no difference between unconditional and conditional. And I went just through this process supporting Vanuatu to submit the initial report and also help with the responses to the review team, to the technical expert review team. And Vanuatu's NDC are 100% conditional, 100% conditional. And nevertheless, the reporting does not distinguish between those conditional NDC and unconditional commitment. So the reporting or the expectation is that the project contributes to a country's targets, no matter if it is conditional or unconditional. This is why the NDC should be, the next generation of NDC should be phrased in a different way. There should be just a target that the country can really afford, and everything that is more ambitious than what the country does is actually eligible for carbon markets. So how the NDCs are phrased the next generation. And countries.
That means if I contribute to national NDC of a country, and even if that country gives me corresponding adjustments, it is the country's obligation to fulfill both conditional plus unconditional, isn't it?
Yes, and even if the country says I can only do it the support, then this support is climate finance. Yeah, it should be climate finance.
It cannot be it was.
Cannot be transferred inwards because it doesn't contribute to the country's target. So the challenge is now for a country, it needs support, it needs finance to achieve the target. It doesn't have enough climate finance because developed countries
So
don't
that has
pay
to be
the
some
obligations.
6.8 or something.
Yeah. Or just yeah, exactly 6.8 for climate finance, but there is no contribution from not sufficient support from the developed countries to pay for climate finance. So countries have two options to either increase carbon finance where possible, or do nothing. And I mean, and there is a carbon project is not just a mitigation project. The carbon project is so much more than reducing emissions. There are so many co-benefits with implementing projects. There are so many SDGs usually covered with a project, right? So it always contributes to the SDGs of the host country or a country that is hosting the project. And I think this is also important to see. So there is in the case, maybe to just give a very concrete example, in Malawi, the investor would have committed to distribute 1 million foodstuffs. But because of the challenges with the NDC and the targets the country has formulated in the NDC, they can only accept to receive 300,000 foodstuffs. So now, 700,000 stocks are not distributed, although they could be financed just because of a reporting issue. And this will cost so many people, maybe even their lives, yeah, because improved foodstuffs also have health impacts. So we are risking people's life just because of a reporting issue. This is actually really, I mean, very unacceptable.
These are some things that are now coming to the attention of negotiators.
No, I don't think so.
No. Okay.
No, this is something that is seen by people that are trying to implement projects. Yeah.
But it's not brought to the attention of the negotiators and the text writers. So maybe it has to get into the detail. It may not require a CMA or anything like that. Some of these, it may require.
It may require.
It will require. CMA has to come in to say supported, unsupported NDCs, how they should be treated.
Yes.
Huh?
Yeah, no, I think some rethinking has to be done properly because it's a shame. Huh? I mean, 700,000 stores are just not given to a country because of the NDC reporting.
Now, how do I look at Article 6.4? In Article 6.4, am I ready to submit methodologies?
Yes, so in fact, the Secretariat has committed to revise at least 11 methodologies by April. So the most used CDM methodologies will now be revised into Article 6.4 methodologies over the next 3 months. This is just the beginning, yeah, the first 11. And then, of course, more and more methodologies will be revised to become Article 6.4 methodologies, but the process is starting. So within the next 2-3 months, project developers will be able to use Article 6.4 methodologies.
And what about projects for registration? When can we submit projects for registration? And
now, since the supervisory board is fully operational, it's regular meetings, project, I don't know, maybe still caveat that there is no Article 6.4 methodology yet. Could theoretically be submitted for review and consideration. Yeah. I mean, what I also saw by responding to the initial review, the technical review comments in the case of Vanuatu, what I saw there is that the Secretariat expects the project to be submitted in with a 6.4 methodology, with a methodology considering the more conservative approach to baseline setting. This is already the expectation. And there is a rule for CDM projects that CDM methodologies can be used until the end of 2025. But it is CDM. I'm not Article 6.2. So this is not connected, it seems. For 6.2 and 6.4, the expectation is that methodology should be the new way of setting baselines.
Another thing I wanted to ask you is that, of course, in CDM, everybody didn't have commitment in the Kyoto Protocol.
Yeah.
So the ones that did not have any commitment whatsoever had to prove that I'm doing this emission reduction, which otherwise would not have been possible.
Yes.
So the additionality became a larger issue.
Yeah.
But in Paris Climate Agreement, when I'm doing a corresponding adjustment, right, it is almost like GI,
Yeah.
right? So why are we so much worried about additionality?
No, but there are still, even two levels of additionality now. One is the NDC additionality, one is the project-based additionality. On the NDC additionality, it is difficult to argue that the project that is in the unconditional, currently unconditional NDC, which the country is supposed to do anyway, is an additional project because according to the NDC, the country doesn't need support. It is doing it twice the extra. So this is the NDC additionality. But then carbon finance is still an instrument to support the project to improve its financial viability. It's almost like a subsidy, right? So if a project doesn't need a subsidy, why would carbon finance be needed?
I'm generally looking at it cap and trade approach. For example, inside a country, all entities are given cap and trade.
Yeah.
Right? I do more than what is my cap and sell my credits to others. Right?
If this is the case,
Yeah.
if this is, you're right. So, this would be the new approach where a country has only a target and everything that goes beyond the target should be automatically additional.
Additional, natural.
But I
have a
how
cap.
it is.
I'm an NDC. Whatever I am giving you is beyond my NDC. Even it is within with the NDC, I am doing a corresponding adjustment.
But the methodology approach that is currently put forward is not.
No, I'm just wondering why is this? I think is it a legacy or a hangover of the CDM?
Yeah, maybe.
It's a hangover of the CDM.
It's still the more or less same methodologies. The difference will be the baseline setting, but the methodology approach will remain the same. So additionality will still have to be booked. And this is the other discussion that we had about the price. And this is why we are talking here about the crediting approach. Yeah? It's a bottom-up approach where the price is defined by the cost of the project. There is a difference between an agricultural project or an infrastructure project. Let's say composting land or whatever. Because the cost, the actual investment costs are higher. So this difference will still remain.
Mala, how are we on the time? Tell us if we are going over the time.
Sorry,
Hi,
sir?
Mala.
Yes, sir.
Are we on?
So your
How
voice
much more
broke, sir.
time?
So we have 15 more minutes.
Oh, great. That's good. We have some more minutes.
Some more minutes, okay. But are there maybe some questions from the audience?
Mala, do you want to leave to the audience for any questions?
So maybe that we can leave for the end of this session.
Okay.
We'll have
so,
Team GC also here, live
Okay.
from COP sharing their insights.
She's saying now we can continue.
Okay.
Okay.
So then
Yeah.
we have already discussed a lot about Article 6. So maybe we can talk about India and the specific methodologies that I will take here. So but what I understand is that in India the process is to put forward the project to the DNA to the national body that is the project is not fully defined yet, right?
The way the India looks at it is that India has its NDC. There is no supported and unsupported NDC. It's a full NDC, and it has already defined which category of projects which it will authorize for ITMOs under Article 6.2 and 6.4 and give the corresponding adjustments. That it has done 3 years ago. The positive list was declared 3 years ago. That was recently modified
Yeah.
It was earlier 13 categories, recently it became 14 categories. So till now, Government of India was not giving authorization because Article 6.2 was only operational, and Government of India has not signed any bilateral agreement.
And will not sign in the near future.
May also sign, but still discussing the bilateral. There is certain discomfort in signing some of the bilateral agreements. So these discussions are going. So, and at all the times, we were also working with Government of India, saying that you don't even require bilateral agreements for Article 6.2, which now the text is making it clear. Okay, this was, we were pointing it out to Government of India about 2 years ago. Okay. Not 2 years ago. Even at Glasgow, we put. Okay. We don't require because the text articles, Paris Agreement text of cooperative mechanism never talks about a bilateral. We believe that the JCM extremely positive approach has almost become a de facto architecture for Article 6.
Yes, yes.
Which is one of the good architectures, but cannot be the only architecture, right? So we believe that that is what led all these things. Now, Government of India, after this text becoming clear, may start providing the approvals, but it is very clear to them that only those 13 categories.
But they would be ready to authorize such projects from this for the
Absolutely. My company, Greenco, our application for authorization is 3.5 years old. Okay, for a storage project, energy storage project, before we went to Glasgow. Okay, so after we came from Glasgow, these 13 categories were declared by Government of India, and a mechanism was declared as to who will review this, etc., etc. That body is already there, but that body was getting into an issue as to if I authorize, who is on the other side, to whom I am authorizing.
But now it is clear.
Now it's clear.
And does India have any limit with regards to the volumes they can authorize? Did they set the volumes, maximum volumes per project, per technology or category?
No, it says that, for example, in an energy generation project, renewable energy generation project, it does not authorize any renewable energy generation project, but it will only authorize storage. So the emission reductions that arise out of storage component only, it will authorize.
But how many in total in the sector or in a technology?
What they said in that is that every 3 years we may come back and review.
But does this mean that the project can only get the authorization for 3 years? Or
No, that means that the project at present will get authorization for 2030.
for the full volume they are
Generating till 2030. It is not necessary full volume. They are not saying. When they give an authorization, they can take a call on how much. They have a very clear view on viability gap.
This assessment has been done probably during the NDC development phase.
They are not looking at like some of the countries taking some $5, etc., for corresponding investment. What are they saying is that how much volume that I will authorize depends on your viability gap. Because whatever volume I don't authorize is mine. I'm not giving a corresponding adjustment. And my way of thinking, that is a right approach. That I authorize to the extent that I cover your viability gap, so that I can take big steps. I can take big steps that lead me to net zero, not to meet my NDC. To meet my NDC, I don't require anybody's help. Because I committed, I will meet. To go beyond NDC, to create infrastructure to meet my net zero, I need to take giant leap. And that giant leap has viability gap to it.
But the volumes, how many volumes can be authorized, will also then depend on the price that this unit can
that is one
generate.
thing. The thought process at one point of time is that they will even tell the developer, you will not sell anything below this price.
this price has been set?
There is a thought process, never said.
Never said.
Never said this. The sentence that I am saying was also part of the thought process.
Okay. So this is then almost like a cap and trade, what you mentioned before. Okay.
The way that we are looking at the whole international trade from India is like a international cap and trade. Because there is no reason why we should be in a mode of Kyoto Protocol any longer.
Yeah.
Right? We are not.
Not, yeah.
We are not, because all of us have targets. Right?
Yeah.
All of us are committed to targets.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, it is like a global, it should be, as you said, in the last session we had, it should be a global compromise.
Yeah.
This is a long way to go.
Yeah. No, if we all work together and the countries are pushed appropriately, cajoled appropriate, not pushed, cajoled appropriately, I think we can arrive. It is not very far. We need. I understand that. As I told you that in side talks, I am hearing that many countries, including European Union, is positive about using ITMOs to meet their NDCs. When they increase the NDCs, they make an ambitious target.
This is a very exciting
Yeah.
news. Yeah, very exciting. Yeah, I really hope that this will happen
Absolutely.
eventually. Yeah. Because this
See, we are also, most of the emission traders are stuck with our commitment or our investments into voluntary market. We don't want it to go.
yeah, okay.
Most of us are experts in CDM. We don't want that expertise to go.
But we can build on it for
Yeah.
Article 6.
No, one is
Anyway,
building on it also means that keeping it. Sometimes it has
So
to
you
be
should
lock,
get
stock, and
completely-
borrow throw.
But the whole design of Article 6 is very much building on the old mechanism.
That should not be, because the earlier mechanism was built on certain countries having commitments and certain others not having.
Yeah. So
This-
this is a
This
mistake.
architecture is different.
Yeah, but then overlooked by the negotiators probably, because they very much build on what they know.
Yeah.
What all of us know, right, from the CDM.
So very soon they will, because in my opinion, they will realize the incongruity in the thinking. This is not the way that we can go ahead. And most probably, one problem in our NDCs is really not a cap. It is said in different units and
Yeah, not even all in GHG units.
yeah, different language. So it is so flexible that it cannot be called a cap, and you cannot
And
run a
this-
cap and trade.
But this brings also the question up if we should not develop a format for ADCs in the future, so that ADCs become comparable. Because at the moment ADCs are
Not
so
comparable.
are not comparable at all. And some countries submit 2 pages ADCs, other countries submit 100 pages ADCs.
And that is one reason why a cap and trade kind of a situation is not possible.
Yeah.
Second challenge in NDCs is that I can keep transferring my emission reductions, and that one day I realize that I am not going to meet NDCs. So what will happen? I transferred my emission reductions, and 2030, suddenly everybody realizes I am too far away from meeting my.
Yeah, and this is especially problematic for countries that set single-year target, because they only look at the volumes generated and transferred by 2030, and then they see what happened. And this is the challenge that, or the concern that many project developers have when it comes to LOA revocations. Because if a government sees that they actually transferred too many,
Then what will happen?
then maybe they will revoke some
Yeah.
of them, but this cannot really happen for those. Now the decision has been made
Absolutely.
that for ITMOs that have already been transferred, they cannot be revoked.
They
So
should
everything
not.
that is transferred could not be taken back. So this is a confidence for project developers and investors. But now there's also the requirement to do a trajectory
Absolutely.
for the whole NDC cycle, and this will help countries hopefully to understand what the volumes are they can actually really transfer without jeopardizing their own NDC.
And everybody should develop their capacity, or you should develop everybody else's capacity to have a trajectory and estimate exactly how much I can transfer.
So
I think this is right.
I believe this is something that should be done during the NDC revision. This is now the opportunity for countries to incorporate this in the updated NDC. But it could also
And
be,
you should build the capacity.
yeah.
Or we should
I
together
would try.
build the
Yeah,
capacity.
exactly.
Together.
Absolutely. Yeah.
It's
Absolutely.
wonderful. I think Mala, we are through. We already said whatever all that we can say.
Exactly.
Okay, over to you,
Definitely,
Mala.
sir. Yeah. Yes, sir. Thank you, sir. Thank you, Dr. Alexandra, for sharing your insights. Well, firstly, thank you for bringing to us the feel of COP29 from ground and showing us the enthusiasm of all the climate advocates there. And thank you for discussing specifically Article 6, its operations, and 6.4 methodologies, and clarifying the doubts around CDM and the Article 6. And thank you for specifically discussing India's stance in this carbon market scenario.
And Mala, and to your audience, whatever Alexandra brought in those insights, I find them very, very specific and very, very rare. You will not
Right,
get
sir.
these insights anywhere else. So, I'm really valuable insights, especially on Article 6.2, even the other, you said, no, the government can, it will help the government of India to, but the text is not yet clear.
Yeah, no, it is.
Not yet clear. No, it is clear, but it is not yet approved.
Yeah, no, it is not approved. It
Not
has
yet
to go through the CM. It is put forward.
So quite a few insights that Alexandra has given were really wonderful and can help many of your audience who are the project developers in India
Right, sir.
and outside. Thank you, Mark.
Absolutely. Thank you. Thank you so much, Dr. Alexandra and Ram, sir. Well, now next we have our team GC live from Baku. And so team GC has been on ground at COP29 from 12th of November. And since then, they have been engaged in impactful climate change, climate action discussions, be it around carbon markets, sustainability, ESG. Have been attending various impactful sessions in the same. So now we'll be having two of our teammates, Ms. Priyanka Potana, who is the MD and CEO of GC, and Dr. Nitin Raja Cherukuri, who is the Senior Manager LCA Climate and Carbon at GC, who will be giving us a brief around the different zones in the COP29. That is the blue zone and the green zones. So just to give a crisp about the zones, so blue zone is actually where the events and sessions are organized by the UNFCCC, and green zone is where the government of Azerbaijan conducts all the events and sessions. So now I hand over to Priyanka ma'am and Dr. Nitin to tell us more about these zones. Over to you, ma'am.
Yes. Nitin, would you like to start first? By the time Priyanka ma'am will do that.
Very impressed by you.
Okay, ma'am. Yes. I hope everybody can hear me.
Yes, you're clear.
Yes.
Yes.
I think if
So,
just a brief one, Nitin, just try to conclude in 2 minutes so that by after 2 minutes, Priyanka will.
Yes. Might not take much time. So yeah. First of all, thank you for the opportunity. I would like to, wholeheartedly thank the GC team who has given me such wonderful opportunity to be here in the ground in such a big forum. And so coming to the blue zone is more or less UNFCCC accredited participants, including parties, party overflows, head of the states, and admitted by the UNFCCC. And the green zone is a melting pot for many of the diverse group of stakeholders. It includes the general public, enterprises, scholars, youth, NGOs, and all the other blue zone participants also. And in the blue zone, you will have, the main motto behind the blue zone is to, emphasize the collaboration between the government bodies and all the stakeholders who are tackling the climate issues. Okay, so just for instance, for time being, I'm here sitting in a zone in a pavilion which is of Uniper. Uniper is, you know, Europe's major gas storage, covering about 25% of storage capacity in Germany. And, you know, they were trying to reduce their methane emissions, methane leakages happening in their operations during the storage purposes. And similar sort of pavilions were there. And for example, one of such pavilion is Baku's White City. So, I mean, you all are aware of, you know, there is an ecological disaster happened because of the oil spills in the Baku city, where the whole city has started, you know, working together to build Baku's old city to rebuild that as Baku's White City. And now it is almost close to some 30% of emissions has been, you know, reduced here. And similar sort of all the renewable energy sectors, all the like Sokar, Green, Aquapower, all such pavilions were designated here in this zone. Yes, so that's all from my end. And yes, ma'am, I think
Yeah,
yes.
sure.
Thank you, Nitin.
Thank you. Thank you so much. So I'll not take, I'll try to give you all more of, a view of, how the pavilions actually look like. So if you can see, this is how crowded it is, and this is where we all enter into the COP. And how I'm just taking you towards the delegate pavilions. This is much less crowded at this time, but it is quite buzzing, if you all can see right now. So I'm just taking you all towards the delegate pavilions. Here there are pavilions across all countries. Okay, so just give me a minute because it's going to be a little longer walk than expected. Just give me a minute, please. So this is how it really looks like. People from all, all delegates, whether they are from the carbon markets, whether they are party representative, UN observers, all are in and around these pavilions. And this is how how it really looks like. And I'll just try to take you to one of the country pavilions. So you have, if you can see, the UN migration pavilion here. And this is how it really looks like. And there are events which keep happening. If you all can see, this is the pavilion of the World Bank. And there is a live event which is going on. Just give me. So the whole blue zone is divided into multiple sections, right from A to H and A to I, sorry. And every section has a mix of, countries, investment funds, and other, NGOs also. So if you can see, this is the Azerbaijan pavilion. And this is how it really looks like and how people are networking, talking to each other. I'll also show you all one more.
Meanwhile, you can see the Baku's White City
Tell me.
prototype here. also.
Yes.
Yes, yes,
I'll show
yes.
the Brazil pavilion. That looks little different because we are going to have the COP30 at Brazil next year. It is a very nice pavilion which is done up. Okay, so here I'm at the Brazil pavilion, and you can see there are multiple live events which are going on here. So there are speakers and there are events. There are people who are networking as well. So this is how it looks like. I have Turkey also, which is just beside, so I'll just show it till then. So this is how it looks like. See, so they have some kind of a game which they have created for SGDs. There are certain, painting workshops which happen here. And also multiple events. I think it's still not started, but this is how it looks like. So I think this is it from my end, Mala. Thank you so much. I know I couldn't give you all a long brief, but in small, I hope you all would have got a complete idea. If I have to go to the site, we are allowed to go there, but I think it's a very, very long walk. I'll take almost 10 minutes to walk up there. And I don't know whether at this point in time I will be able to, get an entry there. So I think next time, if I can get a video and we can share it, we will love to share it with everyone.
Sure.
Okay,
ma'am.
thank you. Thank you so much, Mala. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Priyanka ma'am. Thank you, Dr. Nitin, for giving us the feel virtually, of course, the feel of COP29 there. Thank you for sharing your insights as well. Well, now on that note, this brings us to the end of the today's broadcast. Before we wrap up, I would like to thank our team at the Forum for Sustainable Enterprises for their invaluable contributions in making this broadcast possible. Also, a special thank you to both of our experts, Dr. Alexandra and Dr. Ram Babu, for sharing their in-depth insights on Article 6, the India stand in the carbon market, the doubts, clarifying the doubts around the CDM and what to look forward as we move ahead. Also, thank you, Team GC, for joining us and giving us the feel of what it is at COP there. Well, at the Forum for Sustainable Enterprises, we are dedicated to driving this transition to net zero 2050, the circular economy and the UN SDGs. So as we embark on this journey towards sustainability, we invite all our viewers to be a part of it. We welcome partners, reporters, contributors, or anyone in general who is passionate about sustainability to join us in this journey and share their stories and make a difference along. So you can share your interest to us by reaching out to us at the email ID shown on the screen, broadcast@fsc.org.in, and tell us how would you like to contribute into this broadcast with us. And let's work together to create lasting change, one broadcast at a time. Thank you. Thank you again for joining us on sustainability this month. And see you next month. Until then, stay sustainable. Thank you so much for joining.